And I think we all need a little bit of context there. So you were in Afghanistan before?
Yeah, it's a crazy thing, but it took so long for this thing to get set up, and I never believed it would happen. But actually, in the time it took for the script to circulate around and ultimately fall into the hands of fucking Harvey Weinstein, I'd given up with the film industry and had run away to the Afghan war and had joined the Mujahid.
Which is nicer than Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, much. Yes, that's a decision I don't regret. Yeah, right in the middle of that, in fact, it was in a Saudi Red Crescent hospital. Someone managed to get a phone call to me to say that they were making hardware and could I come back and make this Android movie, which was super difficult at the time because I'd actually lost my passport and my identity, and it was very hard to escape from where I was and get back to London. But then when I did, I was plunged straight into storyboarding and shooting the movie, so there was no real transition period between the two, which I think is what makes the film stand up.
This is now considered, I call it classic, rightfully so, but I'd like to talk about how fast and how cheap this movie was made, because it looks incredible, the world building is incredible, but can you, like, how much time did you have and how much money did you have? I'm just curious.
6 weeks, and it was made for 800 grand, so under $1 million. We didn't know what we were doing, so we just went straight in, and it was released, I think, the same year as Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which was like 120 million. So we made presumably 120 hardwares for the competition.
I remember when it came out here, the video cassette kind of unrightfully sold it as a Terminator ripoff, which it's not really. But there is a lot of influences in there, and we know each other a little bit. I know your influences are not just from movies, like there's comic book influences. Could you talk a little bit about what inspired hardware?
Well, hardware is really kind of a scratch and sniff assembly of everything that was around at the time. So there's an awful lot of musical, comic book, movie influences in there. I think Terminator was the obvious one because it had an android in it. And that was what was going on at the time. But that also influences the other way. We were determined to make it not look like a James Cameron movie, so we banned all turquoise and blue and all kind of grey normal Terminator lighting from it, and we decided to do it entirely in mostly shades of red, and drew heavily on Italian horror movies instead. It's really an Italian slasher movie in disguise, I think, and it still follows a sort of character locked in a single location being stalked by an invisible killer with power drills, chainsaws, etc. kind of format, even though it's set in the future. And then I guess comic book wise, that goes all the way back to the Warren comic books, the creepy series and vampirellas that were around when I was young, because I think it was those and the particularly an artist named Vaughan Bodie who did some of those covers, which introduced me to the fluorescent day glow oranges and the bright, insane color schemes and that. And also wanting to make movies that were a fusion of science fiction, horror, and fantasy without any real generic definition between them. So yeah, a lot of things feeding into it, but really it's also ticking boxes. The Mad Max franchise, spaghetti westerns, there's all kinds of crazy things in the mix.
Yeah, I recently discovered the artist Boris Vallejo, the painter, which has this mechanical hand. I don't know if he was a direct influence, but that was one of the things that I thought, like, oh, maybe Richard saw that. Clearly not, because you look at me with this weird stuff.
I'm kind of a Frank Frazetta fan there.
Yes, Frazetta, sure.
Kind of imitating, and there is a Frank Frazetta poster for hardware, which you may have seen.
Oh yes, it's great.
Which unfortunately was abandoned, but it was crushed by Harvey and Bob Weinstein, who didn't understand who Frazetta was, and instead they released the movie in the States with like a close-up of Dylan McDermott's eyes, and the
also great.
Yeah, but still it has always saddened me that the Frazetta poster wasn't used.
Let's see. I had the fortune to work with you on Color Out of Space. We were side by side there, which was amazing.
Jonas, in fact, shot much of the best material in Color Out of Space because he was directing the second unit. So I think a huge amount of that movie was really shot.
Mainly the alpacas, we have to be.
Well, that's not true. All those trees, the toads, so much.
Yeah, but you did Nicolas Cage, which is, you know, the main part of the movie. But anyway. No, I was thinking, I saw you butt head with the producers, which always happens, of course. Yeah. Is there stuff in hardware, or that didn't make it into hardware, where you were, is there a scene you particularly had to fight for? Because this is a movie full of amazing images and scenes. But it can be, it wasn't an easy move to make, I can tell just by watching it. Was there something you had to particularly fight for or fought for?
Well, I guess the biggest battle on hardware was right at the beginning to cast Stacey Strauss as Jill. Stacey was an unknown, and she'd done some television sitcom before on the Julie Brown show. She was blonde and was basically playing a ditzy, stupid blonde of a TV sitcom. And, she had no cinematic track record to be able to prove she could play the part. And Harvey wanted to cast any number of black actresses that I guess voted favours for one reason or another. And I had to really dig in my heels to get Stacey. That was a consistent battle at the very beginning.
And she's great.
Yeah, I knew she would hold the whole movie together, and in a way she does. It's without Stacey, I think hardware would just be a bunch of scenes. So that was kind of hugely important. And then there were insane running battles all the way through with Harvey and Bob. And I should say I thought Bob was even scarier than Harvey. He just kind of snuck off to one side and no one really noticed he was around. But both of them. And I guess they kept wanting to make it more appealing to kids. And you were shooting like an X-rated or an R-rated movie, so they kept wanting more kids in the film. And about 3 weeks in, they suggested that we should get rid of John Lynch's Shades character, didn't like him, and replace him. They wanted to replace him with a dog. Oh, we had a trained dog.
Okay.
I didn't tell John Lynch, which is obviously insane. Most of their suggestions were lunatic. I mean, you can't put a trained dog into a movie 2 weeks into the shoot on a budget like that. So budget was just insane. And then they were so insistent on this that they eventually wrote a bunch of scenes involving kids.
They themselves
a whole subplot of the film, which was not written by me, which they wanted us to shoot, and I refused to shoot it. And they tore 2 whole days out of my schedule and shot that stuff with another director. Then
it exists.
It exists, yeah. And they tried to cut it into the film, but of course it didn't work. So all of it ended up in the cutting room floor. The net result is we lost 2 days out of the schedule, which we had so few days at all. The loss of these 2 days. The reason that Alvy the dwarf does not get his head set on fire, does not get caught in the metal shredder, which would have been a full day to shoot, and I so wanted to beat the dwarf with the metal shredder.
I know how you love to do that.
So we lost that. It was very unfortunate. His body's just lying on the ground. We never find out what happens to him. Vernon, the younger security guard, was also destined for something much more painful. And again, it would have taken a whole day to do that to him. So those 2 deaths had to be pulled out of the movie in order to make room for the utterly useless scenes that Harvey and Bob Weinstein shot.
Have you ever seen that footage of the kids?
Yeah, it floats around somewhere. It's just it's kind of a subplot with Bo getting beaten up by a gang of kids in the foyer of the building, but it doesn't work for pacing reasons because it just doesn't cut into the rest of the narrative in a coherent way.
So children are beating up the hero of hardware in those scenes.
Pretty much, and he beats them up. And it was stackly directed. I wasn't directing it. I watched it from the sidelines as they did it. It was much more over into the sort of Mad Max territory.
Oh, I see. Yes. There's apparently a Godard quote where he said that everything you'll ever do in your career is already apparent in your first movie. And rewatching this now, there's a lot of shots that I see popping up in your career. Like there's little things, like there's a close-up of a compass that's also in color out of space.
Every single film I've ever made has a close-up of a compass that falls on my credit.
What do you
It
mean?
always falls on the directed by credit.
Oh, that seems intentional.
Yeah, it's intentional. It's in every single thing I've done so far. The compass is always off, which is to try and show people that it's, the direction is all over the place.
I see. But also an overhead shot of a woman being terrorized by a creature. That's in Colorado Space as well. That's in this movie.
Yep.
It's all these images that keep coming back, which, you know. Another question, like a lot of directors rewatching their stuff can only see the mistakes. Are you at a point with hardware where you can enjoy the movie? Or are you still seeing the mistakes?
I'm still seeing the mistakes. I'm still feeling missing scenes, but it doesn't feel as bad as it did originally. I was utterly terrified when the film was first finished. It took a while for me to be able to watch it again properly. I guess it took about 8 months for me to be able to relax into seeing it. This was probably the second screening at the Cannes Film Festival. The first screening I was super tense, and then the second screening when hopefully no one important was going to be there, I finally relaxed, and in fact I think I took half a tab of acid.
That would make sense.
And it finally all made sense. And then,
your own movie made sense to you.
Because the movie's only like 95 minutes long, so I came out of the screening utterly scrambled, and Harvey Weinstein was in the foyer, and he just looked so terrifying to me. Clipping, he looked like some kind of troll or ogre. I panicked and ran. Remember running in terror through the Cannes Film Festival.
Speaking of trolls, there's like the most unpleasant character in this movie is a neighbor.
Yeah.
And you said it's a very pressured movie, but like that's just an internet troll. He doesn't have a Twitter account, he has a telescope. That guy is very much of today's era, I think. The fat neighbor.
I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, he was based on a lot of different real people.
A lot of different people.
Yeah, it was kind of a fusion. There is a bit of Harvey in there. Weinberg Jr. But there was also a creepy guy like that who was hassling us when we were teenagers going to the late night movies. And it was continuously out in the parking lot, and every time we were sneaking out to have a joint, it was like, oh, you guys smoke a lot of dope, I see you, etc. And I stole some of his lines from this creepy guy that I can't remember when I was about 14.
Let's take some questions from the audience.
Yeah, please.